What's been a pivotal moment in your life?
Having a mentor, and I don't know that all of us have had the luck, maybe, of having a mentor, someone that can show you the way. And for me, I came to the United States as a young man, knew very little about the ways of the world in the United States and had to find my way around. And I was fortunate enough to meet a man who was several years my senior, since deceased. And we became law partners early on in my legal career. And he was not only my law partner, but also showed me the way in.
Welcome to A Founder's Life, and I'm your host, Leo Gestetner. My guests and myself share our entrepreneurial journeys and our methods for a balanced life. I'm joined here today by Brian Davidoff. Brian, thank you for joining. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Leo, nice to see you. Obviously, we know each other personally from having lived close by each other and seen each other socially, so it's really great to see you online. I'm professionally an attorney. I'm a father of two wonderful daughters and husband of my wife, Bonnie. As I mentioned to you before we began, it's my 41st wedding anniversary today. Live in Los Angeles, practice at a law firm by the name of Greenberg Lusker, and focus my practice on financially distressed companies. I do bankruptcy work, insolvency, and other kinds of workouts for companies that are having financial difficulties.
And it's inspirational, 41 years of marriage. Love that. And obviously your daughters, and how many grandkids you got now?
So 4 grandkids. My daughters are both in their late 30s. Both of them, which is really super, live within driving distance. So we are the lucky side of the grandparents. Actually, well, one of the interesting things that I've noted to both my kids is that both for their parents as well as their husbands, all grandparents are first marriages, which is kind of interesting. I think actually we are we're the youngest of the various grandparents. They've had wedding anniversaries which are bigger than ours. So 4 grandkids ranging from 3 months to a little over 4 years. For 30 plus years, no grandkids, and then one popped out a year for the last 4 years. Very wonderful.
Love that. And you may be the youngest. You're also, I'm sure, the fittest of the grandparents will be my guess. Your fitness journey has always been an inspiration to me.
Well, that's nice of you to say. Yes, I can affirm that that is a big passion of mine, and one that has been a very grounding force in my life. I've always found the fitness quest has been something, no matter what life throws at you, if you stick with that, it provides not only health and wellness, but also kind of a grounding stability to your life.
I remember a few years ago, I think it might have been the Malibu Olympic triathlon. We were both there together. And all I can say is you finished it about a third faster than I did. Which is impressive. And talk a little bit more about what sort of fitness looked like for you.
Growing up, I'm originally from Johannesburg, South Africa. I came to the United States right after I got my law degree in South Africa in 1979, and then went back to law school here in the United States. But I was the youngest of 3 boys in our family. And so there was a lot of testosterone running around in our family. And my 2 older brothers were in their earlier years also somewhat workout fanatics. So I have a very vivid recollection of going to the gym as a young man. I mean, I was probably 11 or 12 years old that I followed my middle brother, who I was closest with. He's 5 years older than I am, to the gym. And that was my introduction to fitness. And so I began doing strength work as a young man. And then in my early 20s, actually late teens, I started running. And I remember to this day, I remember buying my first pair of Adidas running shoes. And I remember the three stripes. And I remember that the soles were no thicker than maybe a couple of centimeters. I mean, a couple of millimeters. I mean, they were very, very thin. It was the very first introduction to running shoes. But anyway, I began running in my late teens, and doing a combination of strength work and running. And then in my late 20s, when I had moved to Los Angeles, I was introduced to mountain biking by a neighbor of mine just up the road from me. And so my first mountain bike was a Gary Fisher mountain bike. And Gary Fisher was one of the founders of mountain biking, lived up in Northern California at the time. And we used to go up in the hills where we lived. You know the area, Mandible Canyon. And so that was a great experience. And I mountain biked, continued my running, continued my strength work. And then I was introduced by a client of mine to the idea of triathlon. And the first triathlon I participated in was a sprint distance triathlon on Catalina Island. And as you know, Catalina Island has very little flat land. It's an island with a mountain in the middle. And so the race itself has a fair amount of elevation gain. And I loved it. I did that race on my mountain bike and I got hooked, like often happens to people who do triathlon. And so that was, probably at this point over 30 years ago. And then for 30 plus years, I've done just multiple triathlon races. It's been a wonderful journey because it is an opportunity to race not only against your own age group, but also you're on the same course as world-class professionals. And so that has been a wonderful part of my health quest. And then I transitioned out of mountain biking. I had, unfortunately, a couple of not so good accidents, a break in various parts of my body. And I frankly lost my nerve. One of the things I really used to enjoy about mountain biking is I was a fairly aggressive mountain biker. And mountain biking, you need to, in my opinion, you need to do it aggressively. You know, if there's like a rock in the way, you got to go for it. And when you lose that ability to do that, which I did, I just said to myself, you know what, I'm no longer having fun mountain biking. So I switched over to road biking, which has been an absolute wonderful part of my health quest. And there's a group that I'm sure you know, Leo. We meet every Saturday morning, Ocean San Vicente. And we normally head out north on the Pacific Coast Highway now that it's open again after the Palisades fires. And typically we'll head north and then ride up some of the canyons. And so most of the riders that I ride with tend to be younger than I am. So I'm always chasing their tails. But it's a wonderful part of the week. So I look forward to that. So yeah, that's part of what keeps me grounded.
And I'm sure plenty of them are chasing your tail.
It's all relative. So, you compare yourself to the people who are at your ability or better. And so I'm always working hard trying to keep up with.
Fair enough. And what else does health mean to you, whether it be nutrition, sleep, mental health?
Yeah, obviously there's a lot more to physical health. For me, mental health has always been a big issue as well. Fortunately, I'm healthy. My family is healthy. My wife who's older than I am, is healthy. And one of the things that I got into actually when I wrote the bar exam, which is some 40 plus years ago, is there was a teacher who introduced me to meditation. And over the course of the last 40 years, that has been also an important part of my life. And I do on a daily basis, meditate, mindfulness. I've read a lot about it. I've been to different retreats. I've learned from a lot of different teachers. It's, as you well know, that's a continuous journey. You are just practicing and learning and, understanding your mind. And, it's a very illuminating part of life in my experience.
And how long are you generally meditating for, and do you use a specific app?
So I currently use an app, and there are two apps that I'm currently using, and I'll tell you what they are. One is, looking at it now, hold on a sec. Well, one is called Waking Up, and the other one is Headspace. Those are the two that I'm using now. But apps, as you know, are of more recent vintage. And in the past, I have read about it. I've been to retreats and didn't have the luxury of an app.
Yeah, I mean, I learned with Headspace. So I learned to meditate about 10 years ago, and I do meditate daily. Yes, I'm usually probably do it on my own now, but I learnt with Headspace, and I do like the way they go about it. I haven't tried other apps, so I can't see how it compares to other apps, but I think the way they train you on the path and the whole guided meditation, to me, worked really well and helped me on my journey to learn meditation.
There was a time where I was attending at UCLA. UCLA has a program called Mindful Awareness Research Center, MARC, M-A-R-C. And there's a woman there by the name of Diana Winston who is remarkable in this area. And anyway, they have a super program, and they too have expanded their program now that you can either go there, or you can have virtual, participation, net meditations, participate by Zoom, and they also have retreats and stuff. So that's another resource that I've used over time.
I'm actually really interested to try the Muse headband, which someone recommended to me the other day. I think that's an interesting way to understand that sort of brain connection. Have you used that at all?
I have not.
Yeah, it looks they released a new one recently, and it has some really clever ways of sort of putting you into that meditative state and help you understand your brain a little more within that. I said I haven't tried it yet, but I definitely want to try that.
I think one of the earliest books that I read, and I know it sounds a little maybe trite or simplistic, is Meditation for Dummies. Okay, and for somebody who, at the time, I knew very little about it, and I thought it was actually a very grounded and insightful way to learn about meditation. So, yeah, I've come some way since then, but it was a good introduction to the process.
I think everyone's got their way to learn. As I said, for me, Headspace, I love the way he described how to sort of let distractions sort of pass you by. And it's fine to be distracted, but you sort of notice it and let it go past, rather than notice it, stress about it, and that's what a lot of us otherwise would do. So I think he does it well.
We both know that's the continuous journey that we're striving for, just watching it and letting it go.
Definitely. And I think it's useful outside of meditation as well, with the distractions in life.
Sure.
What do you like to do for fun? Obviously beyond what you've been talking about.
A lot of my time is taken up on my sports activities. So I work a lot. That's just the nature of my practice. Being a lawyer, it typically means long hours. And so my days are pretty long. And, but my daily routine is I'm up early in the morning. I do my workout, whether it's a run, a bike, a swim, whatever the case is. And then, usually get to the office, which sometimes is at home these days, depending upon what day of the week it is. I like to, of course, spend time with my wife, and spend time with my grandkids. But really between my, sports and my work and my family, those are the things that I'm passionate about. I do enjoy photography. I find that very peaceful. And one of the things that I got into fairly recently was astronomy. My wife, about 3 or 4 years ago, bought me a great telescope. And so that's one of the things I've also started enjoying now, is just understanding the night sky, which is something I like. When I started meditation, I knew very little about it, and I know very little about the night sky, but I'm learning more about it. So that's been a great part of my life as well.
Does the telescope have any kind of virtual overlay?
It does not.
Have you used the apps on my iPhone? I've had for years, I think it's called Night Sky or something like that. It's a great app where you hold up to the sky and it sort of helps you really work out what things are you looking at.
So this, instead of having to do that, the telescope triangulates. You can pick out two or three different stars in the night sky, and then it'll triangulate once you've entered into the telescope where you are located, and then you're able to then identify what part of the sky you're looking at.
Clever. And how does a balanced life look for you?
So I think as a lawyer, and maybe, true for many people in life where you have a stressful job. I mean, part of my job as a restructuring lawyer is that business owners are coming to me when they are usually at their most stressed. Their business is having a financial issue. They are potentially going out of business, or are facing some other kind of financial crisis. And so that takes a lot out of you during the day. And so trying to find balance is always an ongoing challenge. And for me, one of the biggest challenges is that I go through periods when there is a client crisis. It's a 24/7 situation. You really got to be all in to try to, restructure the company, sell the company, whatever it is that it works best for the client. And I will say during those periods when I'm solidly focused on work with very little else, the balance for me is exercise, and I rarely will give that up. Even if there is a crisis going on, I am going to still, try to get up, whatever, at 5 a.m. and get my hour and a half in the morning. Now, I may have a court hearing or something, in which event I have to forego that. But it really does take something significant for me to forego that, because I find that gives me the grounding. And then once I can get through that client crisis, obviously, spending more time with friends and family is for me an enjoyable part, of course.
Sounds like you found something that works well for you. What's been a pivotal moment in your life?
Having a mentor. And I don't know that all of us have had the luck, maybe, of having a mentor, someone that can show you the way. And for me, I came to the United States as a young man, knew very little about the ways of the world in the United States, and had to find my way around. And I was fortunate enough to meet a man who was several years my senior, since deceased. And we became law partners early on in my legal career. And he was not only my law partner, but also showed me the way in not only life, but in the practice of law. And I learned a lot from him. And one of the things that I learned was that I had a very fixed idea on what I wanted to achieve professionally. And it didn't always turn out exactly the way as you expected. And that's so true of life. You talk about this, this is your plan A, but you always got to have plan B ready and available. But we don't really know what plan B is. And so one of the things that for me was very evident was that while I had plan A in mind, well, the planet didn't have necessarily plan A in mind for me. And so being open to opportunity. And that's one of the things I do say to young lawyers as they kind of come through our law firm and I have an opportunity to work with them, is that it's great to have a vision of what you want to do. Obviously, that's essential. But I think it's equally essential to be open to the opportunity, to be open to something other than exactly what you have your mind set to. Because if you are not open to that opportunity, I think you can miss out on opportunities in life. So have your mindset where you want to go to, but also be open to other opportunities that come along the way.
I love that. Thank you. And I appreciate you spending the time to talk with us today.
Well, I really appreciate you setting this up, Leo. I know that we've been talking about doing this for a while. And so I really appreciate you taking the time to do this.
And thank you for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, tell your friends, and leave a review.